Welcome back to the garage. Today, I think it's time that we go through and prioritize this list to actually knock out the things that are required for me to get that thing back on the road for its first test drive in 30 years. So the list as it sits right here is relatively complete. I've got a few bonus items on here that are fine to do afterwards, but they're not required for just a few drives around the block. So let's change some of these dots to stars. Master cylinder. Gotta happen. Of course, bleeding and installing is kind of together. Bleeding the brakes. Obviously required. The final major brake adjustment, I've done it. I want to go back through and just run by one more time to make sure I have those adjustments just about right. So I'm not going to mark it off just yet. Headlights. I would like to have some kind of running lights just in case. It's not required though. Tail lights. Yeah, I think I would like to have some form of tail light just to make sure people know I'm going to be stopping suddenly, maybe. I don't know. And the associated wiring, of course. Turn signals. It is a Jeep. I think I could signal by hand. Though in this day and age, who would understand those? So maybe I'll actually put some turn signals on there as a priority. Rebuild the steering box. It's got some slop in it, but it works enough, so I'll do that later. Probably would have been easier to do while I had the wheel off, but meh. Flush the transfer case. That's gotta happen. Assess the trans. Yep, that T90 could be full of rust, it could be okay. It was in like a 3-sided shed, and it was covered. I don't know how waterproof that thing was, it didn't look so waterproof. But either way, we gotta check it. Differentials. It sounds like there's fluid in there. I'm dreading cracking those open and draining them because if the transfer case smelled that bad, the differentials would probably be just about as bad. The starter. It works when it wants to. It'll turn over, then it'll grind, then it'll grind, then it'll do nothing, then it'll turn over just fine like nothing happened. So because it's intermittent, we'll leave it because it intermittently works. The horn. Nah. Wipers. Nah. The keyed ignition. What's on there works, but I've only got the one key. So that can wait. Speedometer. I'd like to know just how close to 30 miles an hour I can get in that thing. So, and I'd rather not have a gaping hole in the dash. So I think, yeah, it's priority to me. Gas gauge. We're not going on long haul trips just yet, so we'll wait on that guy. The final e-brake adjustment. I actually have to go find a new bolt to put through the cross member, and I think there might actually be a clamp that goes on the bell housing to hold that cable in place. So I need to figure that out because I need to be able to have some form of slowing down just in case my amateur brake work doesn't actually work. Track down the fuel leak. I actually did that. Would you guys trust a soft line that had been sitting out in the elements for, I don't know, since whenever 95 was, what is that, 20 something years? It looks a little bit dry rotted on one side, the underside, but from the top it looks okay. But I am pretty sure that's where the leak is. We're gonna swap that out. Oil change. The oil actually looks okay. It just smells really bad. It's old. So we're gonna go ahead and swap that out. Oil filter kind of goes with it. Oil lines, while it's empty, should probably do those. That's another issue because they're seeping just gunk. We'll look at that in a second. The fuel soft line, that is the fuel leak, so that fixes that. Redundant, but okay. Points and condenser. the old ones work. They work surprisingly well after just the old emery cloth treatment, you know. So I'm gonna wait on those because they work right now. But I have them for when they leave me stranded and I have to get towed back. Exhaust manifold. I've got it. I would really like to change it out, but I don't think it's gonna stop me from going for a few short test drives around the block. Yes, it's got a hole in the side. Yes, the heat riser is stuck, so it's always gonna be heating up the carburetor and boiling out all my fuel if I'm not careful. So I'll wait on that, but it needs to be done. Distributor cap and rotor. That's kind of same line with the points and condenser. What's on there is old. When I first looked at it, they were pretty corroded, but I used a little rotary tool and cleaned them up, and it's able to fire up and run just fine, but they're still old and I still have to replace them. So have the parts, I'll get to them, but it's not an immediate thing. It's like a tune-up after it all evens out. Shocks. Yeah, they're toasty. Yeah, they're bent. I don't think it's the biggest problem that Jeep has right now. So, yeah. Air cleaner. Guys, this kind of goes back to a history lesson, I guess, because back in the CJ2A's era, there weren't a lot of paved roads. We didn't have concrete and asphalt roads everywhere. It was dirt roads. Paved roads were more the exception than the rule. It's not like it is today where everything's asphalt and concrete. So, an oil bath air cleaner, it's not really necessary in today's world. I can probably get by just short term getting a little dinky air filter to put over the horn of the carb, and that'll filter the air sufficiently. Long term, of course, I do want to clean up the oil bath air cleaner and put it back on the way it should be. But is it priority? No. And then the bonus round here, the hood rain channel, not priority. It's easy, but it's not priority. I don't think I'm going to be driving the thing in the rain anytime soon. It's got no roll bar. It's got no summer top or top of any kind. And it has NDT tires on it. And last I checked, NDT stood for no damn traction. Maybe it actually stands for non-directional tire. Why not both? So, no driving in the rain just yet, especially here in Arkansas. There's a lot of hills. I just don't want to skid around. So, this brings us down to a short list of priorities. I think I can knock a few of these out. Let's jump to it. Actually, basic safety. I'll put one of the seat belts on. Now let's jump to it. Alright, so let's start with the softball pitch and swap out this fuel line. Now, in an earlier video, you saw me swap out these soft lines, the whole dang fuel pump, a couple of hoses up here. So if those were bad after just sitting around out here for how many years, why would this one still be good? Heck, here's the two brake soft lines up front, so those have been replaced. So I see no reason why something like this would still be good and trustworthy after all this time. For reference, this fuel line here is a 7/16, and the end of the soft line here is a 5/8. And of course, by doing this way out of order, I've made it incredibly difficult to get this out. Should have done this while the fuel pump was out. But if there's one thing I can do pretty consistently, it's doing everything on this build out of order. This line's a little bit flexible, but there's a little bit of cracking on here. There's actually a little nick in it right here. So this thing very well could have been the source of the leak. I get the feeling it was. I won't know for sure until I get this thing going again and check the leaks. We'll get that double flare in there snugly, and this one too. For some reason, the new one's a 9/16. Simple enough. Done. So I know I said headlights on a priority, but it'll just be nice to see them light up, you know? Detour time. Now here's something you have to look at here to figure out for a second. To get these out, put a knife or something in here, kind of bend down and pull, and it'll come right out. Though have a wiring diagram handy or take a picture, remember where these go. Well, it looks like I may have run into a roadblock before I even got started. I've got this little, I think it's a 35 watt soldering iron here from Radio Shack back in the day. And it doesn't get hot enough to melt this old solder. So it looks like I may actually have to go back and work on the list. Well, I was at an impasse with that little 35 watt soldering iron, but my dad brought by his Weller soldering gun, and quite honestly, this thing might be as old as I am, but it does the job. Loomed up, new wires, heat shrink. Wish I could have shown you the process, because it was a process of getting those old terminals off of this thing. They did not want to come off after all those years, but old and busted is out of the way. The ground wire wasn't that bad, but man, when you bend this thing, it crinkles. So might as well replace it all while I'm here. So today, Dad's coming back over. We're gonna go ahead and get this longer wire out of here, get the other bucket apart, rewired, put it back together. Dad's got better tools and such than I do. He has the proper fluke meter, and continuity test says the lamps in these are good. So I'm still not sure why they won't light up. I try to apply 12 volts to them and they don't light up. Maybe it's amperage, but small victory, getting something done. And just like that, through the magic of not recording, passenger side headlight is done. Fresh loom in there. You know, I'm sitting here and suddenly I realize, you know, maybe these should have been spun around. Yeah. But it's all cleaned up. And just to keep things contained, I went ahead and picked up a new distribution block. Everything nice, cleaned and loomed up, except for that passenger side wire, which came that way, and I don't really know how that's supposed to be. And I fixed that one. So, that looks a heck of a lot better. Nice to have this grill fully back together. Well, true to the usual making a plan and not sticking to it, there's life. Just a little bit of life, but there's life. Wow, the road to getting a running, revived, driving Jeep Sure is full of odd detours. Well, this is what happens when distractions rule your life. So there's my light switch, and I don't think that's original. It's got too many contacts on it. At least they're clearly labeled. That foot switch has got to come out after a generous helping of everyone's favorite PB Blaster. So I'm going to let that soak a little bit longer and then see if I can get that sucker off of there. As far as things that are stuck go, this one wasn't the worst. I mean, this wiring is pretty much the worst, but that screw came out okay. Switch is probably fine. But some of this wiring has got to go. This right here, notice the bare wire, along with the bare wire, and hidden but bare wire. And even more bare wire that you can't see because it's too dark over here. But trust me, it's there. Stuff like this right here. Yeah. This guy is just grounded out right here against the frame. It's a 1948, so there's no fuses or anything. Except, strangely, one of the dead giveaways that this is an aftermarket switch is, what do you know? It's fused. That's neat. Anyways. But yeah, stuff like that is why I can't keep this battery charged. So for the sake of keeping this battery charged, I'm gonna rip out this section of wire here and remake it. That seems like a fun thing to do. Not really, but it's gotta get done. Like right here, stuff like this. That's just bare wire. Actually just came off. This is the state of my harness. This is why I'm taking a break from everything else and just going back to wiring. I hate wiring, but at least it's straightforward on something like this. Kind of funny how things can escalate. You go from just a little bit of wire cleanup, and all of a sudden the Jeep's facing a different direction. Yep, it was car dolly time. Itty bitty clearance there. I'm still just a little bit fluffy, so I didn't quite have a lot of room to work in between that tiny little gap there, so Harbor Freight dollies were the next logical step, of course. This is probably the first good look that you guys get of the passenger side since that really early video. So now I can finish the adjustment on that brake. I can confirm that that one is good enough, I think. Maybe I can actually wash this side, though I don't think it'll help much. There's really not a lot of paint left, not like the other side. Meh. It's really hard to figure out what everything goes to when every wire is the same color. That foot switch seems to be, despite all the rust, in pretty good shape. Man, these contacts are toast. Wires are toast. Everything's toast. What does this even go to? It's got a... looks like it maybe used to have a connector on it. Actually, based on the rust, it used to go here. One of these. I don't know. And then what's this? This is just... it's like a gigantic butt splice. Or connector of some kind. Yeah. Nightmare. This evening's project, for whatever reason, I don't know why, is to try to rip enough of this off that I can pull it through the firewall and maybe remake half of it. Well, Dad came by, didn't record much. I don't think he likes being on camera too much, and that's fine. But between the two of us, we got a lot of this destroyed harness decoded. It's no wonder I can't keep the battery charged. I mean, this is what I'm working with. It actually gets worse. I think I showed this before, but everything is shorting out here. Just yikes. So the Father's Day weekend side project might turn into a major ordeal in its own, but we'll get something figured out there.